Over the years, I've seen my private tutoring students make the same careless mistakes over and over again. So in this video, I'm going to tell you exactly what those mistakes are and how to avoid them so you don't lose any of those valuable points in the SAT math section. Up first, we've got choosing the first answer you see. On this question, for example, we're dealing with a system of equations, right? We know we've got 37 large and small marbles. So if we think of total marbles, we could think like x plus y equals 37. We also know that we've got 50-gram marbles and 80-gram marbles for a total of 2,390 grams. So we could think 50x plus 80y equals 2390. And I'll throw this into Desmos. From here, we find our intersection and we're seeing 19 for x and 18 for y. So the temptation is probably, what was the question again? We're looking at large marbles. Large marbles we said was y, so our answer would be 18. And we would choose 18 and we would be wrong.
You are wrong!
Because that was the first answer we saw, but that was only step one. We need to get our heads out of our pants. We need to pay attention to the question. How many grams came from the large marbles? So it's not just going to be our y value, which was 18. It's going to be our y value 18 times 80 in order to account for the mass. So 18 times 80 is going to be 1440, which is actually choice D here. Next up is trying to do it in your head. And I have so many students who are very intelligent and can do a lot of things in their head, but even if they get it right, they end up spending more time trying to keep track of all that stuff, doing trial and error in their brain when they could simply write it down, put it into Desmos and get the answer. So on this question, for example, it tells us we started with K active users and the number of active users tripled until there were 4,050. So we should be thinking immediately when we see triple that this is going to be an exponential equation. So basically we've got y equals a times, in this case, being tripled to the x. And there were 4,050 active users in our scenario. So we're going to change y to 4,050. And then it says it tripled each year until this happened. We started in 2019, we went to 2022, that's 3 years. And now we've got this, which again, we could try to do in our head, but we've got Desmos. So let's just throw it into Desmos. Don't forget your squiggly sign instead of an equal sign. That way you can just get a straight up answer. Boom, A equals 150.
Oh, gee, buddy. Seeing all these traps is making me nervous. What if I forget about them?
Well, you don't need to be nervous as long as you actually apply what you're learning in this video. So I've got a free SAT starter kit for you guys. It's going to give you access to some free lessons, practice sets, not just in the math section, but also in the English section. So just go ahead and use the link in the description. That way you can practice spotting these tricks. Next up, kind of similar to doing it in your head, is eyeballing it. And this is specifically if you have some sort of a graph. It tells us we're looking at K2, so the value of 2 for y, it looks like, boom, the value of x is 4. We're done, and we're wrong. Don't eyeball it if you're in module 2. There's probably some sort of trickery going on. Let's actually take some points that we know to be true, aka our x and y intercepts here, plug those into a table real quick. Type the word table. That first point was 0, 9. Second point was 5, 0. And we could see once we click this button that this is the equation we're dealing with. And if we want to get the value of when y equals 2, we can just plug in 2 for y. So on another line, we'll just say 2 is squiggly to negative 1.8. We'll call it xa, so it gives us an answer, plus 9. And now we know the value of a is this. Since all of our answers are fractions, we'll do this, and then 35 over 9 is our actual answer for this one, choice C. Next up, we've got not reading all the numbers. And what I'm talking about is when you have some sort of a word problem, or at the very least, a problem that has more than one sentence, you can often get away with reading the last sentence and sort of cherry picking. But you really want to pay attention to numbers. So in the text here, we see the number 2.5, and that's going to be really important because if we ignore that, we know that we want a line of best fit. We're like, oh man, well, we know the y-intercept is 10, so it can't be A, it can't be D. And then we can kind of eyeball our slope here. Looks like we've got like 20 over 5, so maybe 4. Oh, it looks like 5 is probably the closest, so choice B. Again, we'd be wrong because what's going on here? It says all of the data in the data set that we're actually talking about is created by multiplying the y-coordinate of each by 2.5. So in fact, we know that our y-intercept is not going to be 10, so we can get rid of choice B and D. And from here, just to be safe, we could always plug in a couple points into Desmos to check for our slope. And then instead of 0, 10, we're going to have 0, and then 10 times 2.5 would be 25. So we'll start with our y-intercept. Then another point that I was seeing was that 5 and 20. So instead of 5 and 20, we'll have 5 and 20 times 2.5, which is 50. Click that. And now we know for sure that we have that 5x, which we kind of eyeballed already, but just to be safe. So we know our answer for this one's actually choice A. Next up, we've got the wrong denominator. And this one is going to be specifically for probability questions. And even more specifically, I want to point out the phrase given that, because a lot of my students don't understand that given that does not just apply to our numerator, but also our denominator. So just a little quick refresher, any sort of probability is going to be what we want. So our desired divided by our total being whatever total is given in the scenario. So with this question, what happens with a lot of my students is they see that we are supposed to choose a flower from site A, cool. Given that it's a tulip, cool. So they're like, oh, our numerator is 35. And this is true. But then they're like, and then that's out of our total, which is 102. And they get the wrong answer. Instead, we need to keep in mind that given that is going to apply not just to our desired, but to our total. We're saying the population we can draw from is going to be only tulips. So instead we're looking here, and we get 35 out of 50, which would simplify to 7 out of 10, or just 0.7, which is our real answer for this one. Next is shifted functions, and this is one that I have fallen for myself when I was speeding through practice exams. It's very embarrassing. Basically, a lot of your functions in Module 2 are going to have some sort of a shift. So if I look at this and I just focus on, which could be the value of B, I'm looking at this, I'm like, oh man, this means that B is going to equal one of my intercepts straight up. So I could be 3, it could be -1, it could be -4. Ooh, C, that's the only one that works, right? Wrong, because this is not for the graph that we're looking at. This is for the graph of h of x plus 7 right here. So instead we have to think of all of our little intercepts being shifted down 7, because remember, whatever's in parentheses for a polynomial in factored form is actually going to get flipped. So instead of -b possibly being one of these, it needs to be possibly one of these minus 7. So -4 would become -11, -1 would become -8, and 3 would become -4. The only one that shows up here is -8, so our answer is -8, choice A. Next, we've got negative signs, and these unfortunately bring your points down a lot because they tend to show up, they tend to show up all over the place, but a lot of them will show up in Module 1, where missing a question will bring your score down big time. So if we correctly identify that A is connected to x squared, so we just focus on our x squareds, we might see our positive 4x squared minus our 2x squared. 4 minus 2 is 2, and then we get the wrong answer, which is not choice C there. We instead need to pay attention and see there's a negative sign here that is attached to the 4. So it's -4 minus 2, which is actually -6. Be careful of negative signs. Next up, we've got trying to do the whole problem. And what happens, especially for word problems, is a student will try to read the whole thing and just do it. But that would be like trying to make Kung Pao chicken without even chopping up our vegetables first. You gotta go one step at a time. And the first step should always be to read the last sentence, because it's going to tell us what we actually need to pay attention to. So if the total force, what is the force on the smaller piston? So we know that we're trying to calculate force. Now, as we read through, we want to focus on how do we calculate force. So I'm scanning. I see that force is the product of pressure and area of the surface. So basically we have surface area, I'll call that like S, times pressure P is going to give us the thing that we're looking for, which is our force. Now I'm scanning to see if there's some numbers I can fill in. And I'm immediately seeing 150 pascals of pressure. So we're gonna replace that P with 150. And now for surface area, I'm seeing some information that could help us get our surface area. Basically, it says we have a couple of circular pistons. So we have a couple of circles that are hanging out. And it says the radius of one is 5 times the radius of the other. So if we think of the radius here as like X, the radius for this one would be 5X, right? And then if we're talking about surface area, we need to use the formula for area of a circle, which is pi r squared. So this little one would be pi x squared, and this big one would be pi 5x squared, right? And at this point, I think we should probably jump into Desmos, but keep in mind, this is gonna be the surface area times 150, and it's gonna equal our force, which they tell us for all of them combined is 7,800. So we're gonna replace that F with a 7,800. Let's start there because we can actually figure something out. We can figure out the radius of the smaller circle, right? And let me just start with our force, which is 150. And then remember, to get the surface area of both of these, we're gonna have our pi r squared. And I was kind of using X, but we'll just use R since it's actually R. Plus our pi times the 5r squared. And remember, that was all supposed to be equal to, or if you're using Desmos, squiggly to 7,800. So now we have a value for r. Very cool. So going back to the question at hand, it was asking about force exerted on just the smaller piston. So remember, the smaller piston is just going to be the pi r squared. So in another line, now that we know what r is, we can simply say 150, our force, times pi r squared. And that is going to give us our answer, which is 300.
And the final careless mistake that my students make is not practicing. So do the right thing. Use the link in the description. You're going to get access to a ton of questions and lessons all for free, so you can practice looking out for these tricks and also just generally improving your skills on the SAT.